Hello, my name is Shirley Self, and I'm here to talk astrology. And tonight I wanted to talk about a very prominent, famous, even, moon phase 17, Clarence Thomas. Now, I was working on Johnny Depp, who is a moon phase 17, and I became distracted by Clarence Thomas, and when I looked him up, I was surprised to discover that he was a moon phase 17. I thought surely the power he is wielding is that often out of control power of moon phase 19. That's where the sun and the moon come together, and the mind is united. At a moon phase 17, the mind is not united. Let's look at 17. The lunar mind is turning in, and well, they're both turning in to see what I can do in this situation. What are my talents? What are my interests? What are my powers? Now, moon phase 17 is one of the rectangle of loss, and it can be a very painful moon phase. Very painful. 17 and 3 just have to deal with death, loss, constant. 13 and 27 tend to have more of a choice of sacrifice, but it is imperative that they give up an awful lot and simplify. The losses at a moon phase 17 are to cleanse the emotional body. The emotions are cleansed by loss. Yes, it's losing someone and weeping over it is a purge of a lot of stuff. What 17 has to deal with is not just a lot of death, and that seems to be true, but a loss. 17 is a moon phase in motion, man. This is a 16 is trying to develop some stability as it faces out into the world. A perfect person, remember that's 15, is the perfect individual, self-made. Perfect individual is then going to create a perfect life. Well, 17 is always trying to create the perfect life, just like 16 did. It's part of the ideal. But every time something becomes stable and perfect, it shifts, it changes, and that's this the Gemini influence right there, Libra and Gemini. And 17 is one of the has to make that difficult jump from Gemini to Scorpio, and the Scorpio deals with the loss and the death, and accessing one's powers. Now, if your emotions have been cleansed by loss, then your emotions can see the truth. And what these guys do is they study history, look at the present, so that they can predict the future. Because these are the people they're the politicians, they're the people who do create the ideas, the theories, create the new mythologies that we need to rise as higher as humans, and create a better and fairer civilization, a more just civilization. This is justice up here. So 17 uses this emotional power to virtually create a new myth, because it has to be an idea that speaks to the subconscious, a myth that'll counter the myths that are no longer functional in society, counter those myths and give you pull you into the future, instruct the subconscious mind on how to access the future, how to go into the future, how to pursue your heroic journey. So that's what 17 does. And I have my granddaughter, when she was very, very young, wrote a story about a frog who fell in love with a pixie. And even at the time, I was thinking, moon phase 17. She teaching you that cross-species love doesn't have to be sexual. It's agape. But to love those who are different from us is what she was teaching us in her little myth. It was a beautifully written story. 17 is so creative that W.B. Yeats himself imagined that he must be a 17 because he was so creative. Well, he was a 19. And so what else do I need to tell you about 17? Check my notes. The problem 17 has is because it's still so interned, and to see what's in there that they should bring out. Remember how creative 13 is. 13 is bringing God-inspired stuff out of the gut into consciousness and into the world. So, and that's 13 is that is the inspiration, the creative genius from Moonface 17. Okay, so one of the problems they have, because they're still lost in the ideal, is that they have trouble seeing the world as it is. And that is why it's imperative that they cleanse their emotions, because, well, you look at it, that is incredibly emotional. That is Scorpio. Is the deep emotions of passion, possession, and power. Okay, so let me see what else I wanted. A problem that I have is because the world keeps pulling the rug out from under their feet, is that they can succumb to bitterness. This Gemini influence your bitterness and cynicism, because of the creative genius. They would promote the cynicism of Virgo in these people. And when they do, they just become a bitch. Sorry, they just become a bitch. I was, Princess Alice is one of my interesting examples of how easy it's not easy to become a bitch. Princess Alice did not have an easy life. I'm sorry to say, Teddy Roosevelt was a lousy father. All of his children suffered from his overwhelming presence. And for Princess Alice, her mother died when Alice was born. And she was virtually the love of Teddy's life. And after she died, they never spoke her name again. She was erased from the family. And this is really strange to me, but it was devastating to Alice. Anyway, so that's a 17, and she became a real bitch. I mean, she was an influence in Washington until she died. But I think not a pleasant person, a bitter, cynical person, and that's what happens to 17 if they can't raise up a passionate idea of their own about how to go forward into life and put some faith and work into that. They become very difficult to live with, to put it mildly. So and they tend to divide, even the ones who are doing their best at Moonface 17, I'm sorry, they tend to divide the world into good and evil. So to be an enemy of Moonface 17, well, look at this. It's the Scorpio decadent of that sign, so Scorpio sign. So yeah, it's capable of intense hatred and rage. So that's a 17 for you. And now we have Clarence Thomas here. Our, who is suddenly, well, let's look at Clarence Thomas. Okay, let me do a rundown. Moon at 1 Aquarius. I don't remember why I put Juno in here. That's the faithless relationship issue. But she does square all this stuff here. North node here is at 13 Taurus, and it's retrograde, and that's healthy for a north node. Fortune is at 26 Gemini, conjunct Uranus at 27 Gemini, Sun at 2 Cancer, Mercury at 3 Cancer retrograde, Venus at 3 Cancer retrograde, and Pluto at 13 Leo, Saturn at 19 Leo, Mars at 17 Virgo in the 8th here, Neptune 10 Libra, South Node in 13 Scorpio, right on the MC. Chiron at 19 Scorpio, Jupiter at 23 Sagittarius, retrograde. Okay. It just blew me away. It did. This must be a very powerful presence. Well, he's got a powerful. You look at his picture, and he's awesome. He's awesome. So he must be an incredibly powerful and, well, yeah, I would even say overwhelming presence. He's got the moon here, so he's a friendly presence. Yes. And he's got a Sun-Venus conjunction. Well, let's talk about that Sun-Venus conjunction. It makes him kind of a sweet person. Yes, once you get to know him, you'll like him. But this Mercury is what they call Kazemi. Kazemi means that you have to be within 17 minutes of the heart of the sun. And Mercury is. And what's even more interesting, he's within 2 degrees of being parallel to the sun. So that's virtually another conjunction. And then we've got Venus here, who is far enough away to only be, what do they call it? It's not chronic. It's assaulted. I'll look for it. I've got to find it here somewhere. Oh, Mercury. Oh, combust. Oh, yes. And what happens with these two planets that are Kazemi and combust is that they're totally overwhelmed by the ego. Totally overwhelmed by the ego. They are not separated at all. There is no objectivity to this Mercury. None. None. No compromise can be made. The Venus, also what he wants is what he is. And he is, these planets virtually they help in his ego drive for prominence, for power. 13 Scorpio right there on the midheaven. South Node, 13 Scorpio, just on the 9th house side. What's interesting to me is you don't often find this combination. This is Chiron right there on the midheaven. And so he's got several things that make this powerful ego absolutely sure that he's right and has the right to do what he wants. First of all, he's got this sun in Cancer and in the 7th house. And now it looks to me, okay, he's got 9 p.m. birth time here. And when you get it rounded off, I mean, it can move minutes one way or another. So considering this is only 1 degree, it could well be Gemini that is on 2 houses here. But as this is an ego problem. Anytime you've got the sign on the 6th, also on the 7th, you've got a chronic problem. Chronic. I mean, I wouldn't say it's unsolvable, but it will take some outside effort to do it. And so there's this ego problem. So then he's got this Pluto and Saturn in Leo. Now, I think the world will be better off after all of us, and I am included here. I have Pluto at 1 degree of Leo. When all of us, Pluto and Leo, die and get out of the populace, and especially out of the government, because Well, you got Pluto in Leo. We believe that anything we destroy, we had a right to do it. Had a right to do it. And the Saturn says the same thing. Especially this Saturn. Look at this Saturn. It's got this trine to Jupiter over there. And so that's just a feeling of rightness and arrogance. And that's the thing about Leo. You have to realize that Leo, who owns his fifth house here, he does not criticize himself. He does not examine himself for flaws. That's what Virgo does. So anything this one does not do, this one will catch up on, etc. here. This one yearns for a relationship. He will do all sorts of weird things to gain it. But here's relationship in Libra. A balance of power. So he's got all these reasons. Oh, and this one right here. Here it is. It's a sextile between Chiron and Mars. Also makes him absolutely sure that he's not that he's doing the right thing, but that he has the right to do what he's doing. And when you think that this is a black man who has risen to power, it's really hard to argue with him because his past gives him a certain, I guess, leeway. Although when you hold this much power over people, I think very little leeway should be given to you. So anyway, let me get back into this. He also, okay, so we've got the maverick, Chiron, right there on the midheaven. The maverick, Chiron. And we've got the maverick Uranus-Sun conjunction right here on the cusp of the sixth house. As a servant, he does a service. His sixth house here. The Uranus is Oriental. And so he is, as was Donald Trump's, his Uranus was also Oriental. And so they're both disruptors, and you can't argue with them. They are, like I say, for this guy, whether he's right or not, he's going to do what he is going to do. So we've got Chiron up here, and the use of power is his opening into his hero's journey here, his use of power. He's got the South Node up there, though, and that's fairly problematical. So what it does is it tends to deal with childhood issues, as the Chiron does anyway. Chiron, where you get that wound is sometime in the first, say 5 years, 6 years after you're born. There is going to be an issue that is not just your family's small issue, but is an issue that your community or your world is dealing with. And for me, I have an issue with imbalance of relationships and how men have been able to tell women what to do since virtually the fall of the goddess-worshipping farmers. Anyway, and that happened right at the beginning, what the Mayans marked as the beginning of their long count. It was the invasion of the patriarchal mobile people, the people who herded and hunted, and invaded the gardening people, the farmers, and changed everybody from, all the goddesses then had to marry war gods, all the goddesses. So, and Juno wasn't terribly happy with hers because she was married to Zeus, and he went around and fertilized everybody. Anyway, okay, so he's an independent cuss, that's for sure. This moon is out of bounds. It's quite almost as far as it can go, out of bounds. And so he has any planets out of bounds. What you're dealing with, you've got a response to the world, or actions in the world that are unbounded, that are beyond the norm. And let's see what else he has out of bounds. He has this Uranus out of bounds, only moderately, and the Pluto out of bounds, only moderately. So, but they're out of bounds. And his use of power, his disruptive tactics, and his responses to changes in the world are not your average ones at all. So, let's see, what else did I want to tell you here? Well, this Mars square Jupiter gives you a tremendous amount of arrogance and unwillingness to back down. And we've seen that in Clarence Thomas. An unwillingness to back down, which is probably what got him where he is. When you think about it, you know, he's an unusual man in an unusual place in this country, anyway. So this Pluto is also an unaspected. It can do what it wants. It can destroy what it wants. It is not, and notice that it's in the degree of the nodes, so it's a karmic power. And the way he uses it is going to impact his future incarnations. The Neptune, here's the losses he has endured, and I don't know them. But just being a black man, being raised in this country, you're bound to have incurred a few losses and disappointments. And this Neptune is square the moon, and therefore square the Mercury and the Venus. And so he's wounded. He's in the 6th house, and he's telling you that he's been wounded. He is the epitome of the wounded black man. He's an awfully powerful man for a wounded black man. But I do believe, just looking at these nodes and looking at his behavior, his South node is telling him, okay, the North node, let's start it right. The North node is ruled by this Venus, which is conjunct his Sun. And to be caring and giving is the North node. And to talk to us in a caring and giving way that makes us feel more secure. His Sun, Mercury, Venus, is on the United States, Venus, Jupiter. So I mean, he could do a lot in his position to make us all to come together more as a country. I mean, yeah. So anyway, that North node is ruled by this Venus in the House of Healing. And so what the North node wants him to do is to heal the body politic by telling us the truth and feeding us a new myth. He's a myth maker. He's a myth maker. I think he lies to himself a lot. He only has one planet in Earth, so he's not a terribly practical man. This is the only planet he's got in Earth. Okay, I need another sip of water. I've learned how not to let this thing bat me on the nose. Okay, so this south node, however, is, and you see him using that south node, his power to do what he wants to do, power to destroy. And we're all concerned about what more he has on his plan. But he is a 17, and I think it's Pluto. I think he's taking revenge. That's what I do. I believe. He is out of cynicism. Notice the Mars in Virgo, which has virtually nothing to help it to do the right thing. It's in the 8th house. It's squared to Jupiter, which encourages him to use his Mars in, I think, spiteful ways. Spiteful ways. He's cynical. This is cynicism at its best. Mars in Virgo in the 8th. Yeah, I think that's cynicism at its best. So I think he's what Yeats would call an out-of-phase 17. It's a very difficult phase. Nothing stays still. Nothing stays still. In spite of the fact that this is cardinal and this is fixed, so his plans are fixed. He's got just enough of the mutable to be incredibly disruptive and to be incredibly disrupted. His progressions are really interesting. His progressions have turned this chart 90 degrees so that the IC is now on the ascendant and the ascendant is now on the midheaven. The nodes, his progressed nodes, are across the ascendant, or just kind of this way, the ascendant-descendant line, and he will in the next 5 months have a node return. I didn't check to see exactly when. What else did I want to tell you? Oh, the progressions. His Venus is now, his progressed Venus is now on the United States, Mercury, and Fortuna. So, and that's in the 8th house. So, so he's been a shock to us. Yes, he has. What he wants, and what we were thinking are two different things entirely. So, like I say, I admire the man for what he has managed to do. But when you look at the single-mindedness of him, that Pluto really is important for him. And unfettered. It's at an inconjunct here to the Chiron. And I don't really, off the bat, know what that means. Did I write that down at all? To the Chiron. I think it's a warning on how he uses this energy. The inconjunct, there is a 8th house inconjunct, a death inconjunct. I think, yes it is. Okay. but being like I say, he only has one Earth planet, which means that he's not practical in his judgments. He doesn't consider the practical collateral damage that happens with his judgments. I do think there's an awful urge for experimentation here in this conjunction here. An urge just to try it and see. And that's what that Uranus, that Oriental Uranus, will do to that sun. Well, let's just try it and see. We don't mind a little chaos, right? And you'll notice that his Fortuna is conjunct that. So it tends to come out right for him. He tends to take advantage in a well thought out way to chaos. So there's our justice, who's becoming more and more powerful. And I look at this chart. Notice that there's this 4 houses bundle here, and then there's these 2 handles here. So these guys are real important. Remember that this is out of bounds. And the problem with a moon in Aquarius, as I've said several thousand times, is when you've got the sun in Cancer, the moon rules that sun, and the moon is uncommitted. Uncommitted. I don't think that Clarence Thomas values relationships for the give and take of them, because he gives. He does not take. This Casimir Mercury is incapable of taking in anybody else's opinion. He's capable of taking in other people's feelings. There's a certain permeability to this square with Neptune. Because his own feelings tend to be this Venus retrograde. Venus retrograde is not a happy Venus. She's spiteful. She's spiteful, insecure, and not a comfortable person to be with. So I think that Venus is real important for him. It would rule this. It rules that North Node if he could only find comforting words for us that would inspire our emotional natures to come together as a unit and live together as a country that was guided by love. Our North Node, United States North Node, is in Leo, in the 8th. And what Leo in the 8th means is that you need to regenerate your loving nature and to use your power through your heart to channel that 3rd chakra energy through the 4th chakra. So there's Clarence Thomas. This dude, I swear, he's a powerful man. But I think that, I think it would be hard to hold out against him. Hard to hold out against him. Because I think he uses guilt, our guilt, our unacknowledged guilt against us. Our unacknowledged guilt. Now see, that's one of the wonderful things about acknowledging that you're wrong, is all of a sudden you're home free. All of a sudden it's a new reality. This guy is not really in touch with reality. So anyway, I hope you're well. We're doing okay, in spite of the fact that everybody's kind of depressed and the money's running out. Tell the people you love that you love them. It's really important, and it's an American thing to do. Bye-bye.